Glad to see y'all. Glad to be back, y'all. How y'all doing? What's good, Eli? Come on, man. Come on. Come on. What's good, Eli? What's good? Come on, man. What's good? How's everybody doing? Thought you forgot about us, Jay. No, it was just a very close friends of ours. It was their birthday, so we were out of town. We were out of town for that. We were out of town, and I've been really putting a lot of time in on getting some content out on the channel, getting videos out. So I've been really focusing on that, as I told y'all before. So yeah, man, that's really just been it. We just been busy. We just been fucking busy, man. But how you guys doing? How's everybody doing, man? How's everybody doing? So like maybe all of us dudes need to have divorces to ball out like Luka. Hey man, that might be the key. That might be the key. Pookie, what's good? Derpy, what's good? I've been seeing you. You've been pumping out content yourself, Pookie. Derpy, I've been seeing you, bro. I've been seeing you, man. How are you guys, man? How are you guys? You guys excited for the end of the season? You guys excited for the end of the season? You guys excited for this MVP race, man? There's been a lot going on, man. There's been a lot going on. Honestly, since I haven't been here, we're a week removed from it. But do you guys want to talk about this Bam Adebayo situation? This 83-point game. I saw there was a lot of people that were very hurt by that situation. Bam had 83, and we've talked about this before. The Kobe fans, I'm a big Kobe guy myself, but admittedly I'm more of a Jordan guy. And when I was younger, T-Mac, I was a T-Mac guy, and I really grew to be a big fan of Kobe over time. And even though it wasn't the most ethical way to go and get 83 points, like some of the comments were kind of crazy. like listen, man, I get it. I get that his teammates were helping him score and do all that stuff. Realistically, if you are his teammate and you are in that position, you would help them too. And if you were in his position, it's easy to say, no, I don't want any help. But, you get some freebies. And the other part in this too is I get that free throw shooting is supposed to be, it's called free throws for a reason. But he had to hit 36 out of 43 and shot 83.7%. Again, I think it's very clear and very obvious which game was better and which game was more impressive, right? That's why the Kobe game is such a standard for everybody. But like, he still had to go and get the buckets, and he still had to do what he had to do. So, it is what it is. I don't like people trying to discredit Bam. 50 from the floor, and the defense couldn't hold him. So he went to the line a lot. It was a hell of a game, and you can love Kobe without feeling the need to discredit guys. No, that's facts, Eli. That's facts. Like, listen, I wasn't a fan of the way he got the game. He got the points either. But again, when you look at it from the teammates trying to help him, I mean, you're just being a teammate, right? Like, there's only so many opportunities to get to that number. And listen, if you're one of those guys, if you're a Kobe guy and you're in a situation where, because, we're talking about a lot of Kobe Bryant fans. Like, if you're a Kobe guy, right, and you're about to hit 81, or maybe, you're at the free throw line, but there's like 50 seconds left. I respect the fact that if you choose to not break that record because you're that much of a fan. But that same person, if they have 80 through 3/4, they're most likely going to try to go for 100. Like, let's just call it what it is. And so, you know, the thing that I'm really curious about actually is that the most points scored by someone that wasn't even averaging 20 points a game? Is that the most points? I'm really curious. Maybe we could chat GPT this shit actually. Hold on. Let's actually ask let's see if this is a statistic. Scored let's see if this is like a real thing. I put Bam Adebayo scored 83 points and on the season was not averaging over 20. Is that the most points scored by someone not even averaging 20 points in the season? Among 60-plus point games, almost all come from 25 to 35 point per game scorers, primary offensive engines. Bam is one of the lowest season averages ever for a 60-plus, let alone an 80-plus game. So I think that's got to be the most points scored by someone not even averaging 20. The only commonly cited lower point per game outlier, as ironically enough, is Kobe. He had 60 in his final game, and on that season, he was averaging 17.6. But again, that was 60 points and not 80 plus. 60-point outliers exist for sub 20 point per game guys, not for 80 plus. That's a crazy thing. It's one of those things too where, you know, and I put out a video on this because I said something earlier in this season, like where is this guy Bam? Like, Jimmy's out the picture. I get Tyler Hero's the offensive engine that Miami's been trying to kind of force, and you know, he's since come off the bench and whatnot. They've done different things, but I really felt like this was Bam's opportunity to really take over and be dominant, and that just hasn't been the case. And it's not for lack of ability or skill. I think he's probably one of the more skilled big guys. You know, he's not a 7-foot tall player, but at 6'10", he is a good size. You know, can play defense. It was just odd. And then, you know, to have an explosion like that shows what he's capable of, right? So it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, man, this is why we expect more out of you. And they could be in a slightly different scenario. Obviously not averaging 80 a game, but if he were a 25 plus point per game guy, right, that loss of Jimmy Butler wouldn't have been as big, right? And I think the weird thing in this is it would free up everybody else on the floor. You know, I know that Miami's been trying to implement, you know, less isolation, more of the run, pass, and go, the Indiana style offense, but you got a guy that can go and get a bucket in isolation, in pick and roll, in pick and pops. Like, you could put Bam in a lot of different scenarios. And unfortunately, some of the team, you know, them trying to feed the team a little bit more kind of takes away from that. Is that RC? Jay, what up, dude? How you been at? Listen, man, I was away. I was away over the weekend. I was here the week before, but I was away over the weekend, last weekend. But we here, man. We here. How you been? Hey, by the way, too, if you guys haven't had the chance to, I know it's a slightly different thing from what we do on these lives, but check out the video that I dropped the other day. The 2026 MVP race could change history. Check this out. Let me know what y'all think, man. I think it's a good watch. Which brings me to, how unfortunate is that Cade Cunningham timing, man? That timing for Cade Cunningham's injury is, yeah, that sucks. That sucks. I ain't talking about Bam no more. As far as I'm concerned, Bam didn't shoot no free throws to break the 81-point record by Kobe. Listen, man, we all know that 81-point game is the standard. And listen, before we finish with this part, right? Yeah, it's me, man, but I ain't seen you in like a whole month. Listen, man, I'm trying to get the schedule down. I'm trying to get your schedule down, bro. I'm trying. We've been doing a lot of research and trying to get pump these YouTube videos out. It's been taking a little bit more of my time than I like, but you know, we're trying to get into the rhythm of things. Before we actually get away from this topic, the Bam 83, the Kobe 81, the high point games, right? First, I did want to bring up the fact that some of those high scoring games are just unethical. Right, the what was it, the David Robinson 70, how many did he have, 71, 73, whatever it was, last game of the season, right? They were trying to get him the scoring championship, the point per game averages, and then more famously, that Will Chamberlain one, the 100. You know, not only is there no footage of it, there's been some very viral clips. Let me see if I can pull it up. Of Will blocking his own teammates. Let me see. Where is this? There's videos of, you know, Wilt Chamberlain blocking his own teammates' shots. Is it on Instagram? White jerseys. Wait. He's shooting that thing. That is not. So, you know, it's not as uncommon as we might think. David Robinson, 71 point. You know who else got 71 too? Donovan Mitchell and Damian Lillard. That's anyone. If you can score 71, you can get to 85. That brings me to the next point. Is, you know, Damian Lillard had the big game, and even he said after the game, he's like, damn, I missed a lot of shots. Right? And he can see how it would be possible to get to 100, right? So who do we think can actually get to 100 points in a game? And I got, looking from here on out, honestly, my first pick has got to be Wemby. Right, the size, shoot threes. Like, if it's one of those games, he just gets scorching hot from the 3-point line. You know, they're gonna get alley-oops. He's taller than everybody. I think he's a player that has the potential. You know, Luka already had 73, so I think he's also another one, and he's still young enough. Luka on a heater is unlike anything that we've ever seen. So that would probably, those are the two names that I would say personally could actually hit that mark. What do you guys think? Clips like that, JRY, I don't debate if the 100-point game happened or not. I just don't care that much. I don't think it's nearly as impressive as any of the highest scoring nights in the modern era. And I think, it's funny you say that, Eli. I think that's why the Kobe game was so celebrated. And granted, just so the facts are straight, Kobe went for 81. Right? Kobe went for 80 or whatever number he was trying to go for. Because they were up towards the end of that game, right? They were up. Phil could have taken him out. He shot his last free throws with like a minute and something left, right? But they were leading by a good margin in the fourth quarter of that game. It doesn't taint the game for me, but, he hit a lot of big shots while the game was close, especially early in the game. And then the third quarter was insane. But I think that's why that game is so celebrated by not just everyone, but the NBA. Right? And so I think that's why, because I think the NBA knows what that 100-point game was. Some of those statistics from Wilt Chamberlain, it's crazy. Some of the things that he was doing. Which leads to those, averaging 50 and 20 rebounds is some crazy stuff. There's some of that, could have been fluffed up a little bit. And again, that's why I think the Kobe game is so celebrated, because it was, up until the end, and it wasn't too many points. I think he actually scored like 20 or something in the last 6-7 minutes, which is insane in itself. But that's why that game is so celebrated, because everyone knows that's the game, right? You don't really get a reward for passing 100. You do get your name in the record books, but it doesn't come with a trophy. That's why I don't think Jordan or Kobe made 100 a personal mission. If Kobe wanted 90, he could have done, and Jordan's high is 69, which is wild. But in today's lack of defensive focus era, Jordan probably would score 111. Jay, listen, I get what you're saying, RC, and again, I want to point out: do I think Kobe was capable of 100? Do I think Jordan was capable of 100? Yeah, I think there's guys that are capable of that. But the reality is, a lot of things got to go right. Right? You got to hit shots. And even then, you get some of these games, like you shooting 60%, you damn near not missing already. And then to say to yourself, man, if I would have shot 10% better, right, you could have had the game. But that's a lot easier said than done. And I think that's why I don't completely fault people going for it, because you don't plan for that. Like you don't go out looking for that. It's just so difficult. That when you get close, I think some guys, if possible, kind of go for it. But it also goes another way, right? If we remember, I think Cat had like 50 at half, right, on that 62-point game that he had, and he was missing everything, right? The team kept giving him the ball, and he was missing everything. So there's that part of it too, right? If you're not converting and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, we've seen it go the other way also. Your coach also has to be okay with you taking 40 to 55 shots and 20 plus free throws. No, that's facts. What was it? Not even not this season. Last season, opening game last year. Boston Celtics, New York Knicks. It was right after the Celtics championship. We were the first game. The Celtics had an opportunity to beat the 3-point record in a game. and they started going for it, and then they missed like 13, 14 threes in a row. Again, when you get close, you try to go for it, but it's so easy to say like Boston was off by like one 3-pointer, right? Like they were right there, and it's so easy to say to go do that, but that's also difficult. Like Michael Jordan, as good as he was, the most he had was 69, I believe, right? The most he had was 69. But yeah, absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I think the points are, I think the numbers that Kobe personally was going for that night, MJ 69, I think David Robinson had 71. And then I think there's Wilt's less famous, I think 78 points. And, Kobe got 81, which is unbelievable. So, impressive game. Honestly, that kind of brings me to this Luka game last night, man. Let's see. I mean, a little 60-piece. What a way to answer the Bam 83. By giving bro. Let's see. Damn, they don't let you show this. That's insane. But Luka had himself a 60 ball, a little 60 ball. He had, let's see right here. He was 9 of 17 from 3, 15 of 19 from the free throw line, 60 points. Obviously not quite 43 free throws or whatever it was that Bam took, but it's a part of these big scoring games, right? Some things got to go your way, and he was on a heater. He was on a heater. Again, I think he's a player that's capable, because the weird thing is there are some players that care, right? There are players that care how their teammates look at them, how the world looks at them, and the last thing that people want to be called is selfish, right? And there are some players that just don't care, and I think Luka is one of those guys. So if he's on a heater like he's been before, he's gonna keep shooting, and that's why I think he's one of the people that would be capable of actually doing that. Not to change the topic. I think this is a good segue. Not to change the topic, but how are we feeling about the Lakers' chances of making a run this year? I feel like I only hear negative things about their season, but every time I watch them, they look good, and they are the 3 seed. I mean, I know it's been a little while since I've been on here, but I think I've been pretty consistent about my take on the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think they're a great team, but they have 3 offensive weapons that can win you games, and they have one guy, and I've been very consistent about this, if Luka decides to go nuclear for 2 weeks, they can beat anybody. Now, that doesn't mean they're gonna win the championship, but I think Luka is gonna be a tough out. Austin Reeves, I think he's improved. I think he'll be more prepared for the physicality in the playoffs, because we saw how that affected him last season. So, I don't have them winning a championship, but they are, in my opinion, they are a team that can play spoiler. And it really comes down to Luka Doncic. And I say this, I criticize his defense, I criticize effort, I criticize all of that. And still, his offense is that good. Because the way that Luka obviously has a very modern game. It's the step backs, the dribble, a lot of isolation. But he has this, yes, he plays the game slow, but he controls the pace of the game so much that it always gives them a chance, right? Because here's the thing when you're playing the game, right? If you're a team and you're on fire, and then this guy is walking the ball up, he's dribble, right? Wasn't he tween? He's gonna wait for the pick and roll. He almost like puts you to sleep. And so when you're playing against someone like that could really slow the game down, it makes it harder for the other team to stay in rhythm, right? Because he's not going to run all the way down, and he takes quick shots sometimes, but he's not going to run all the way down, and and then the other team gets a rebound, fast break, and then you look up and then the team scored 6, 7, 8 points in a row. The way he plays, even if the other team goes on a run, it eats up more time. And then, there's always the threat of him catching fire. And you add Austin Reeves to that equation. You add LeBron to that equation. I think they're definitely they could definitely play spoiler in the playoffs. If you're Houston, for example, right? You don't want to play these guys. Listen, I think Houston is gonna have a tough time in the playoffs in general, but you don't want to play these guys. You don't want to play these guys. Sengun is gonna get put in a blender. Luka is gonna play pick and roll basketball with Sengun and Kevin Durant for a whole series, and that just doesn't bode well for the Houston Rockets. And granted, that's probably going to be most teams' primary strategy against the Rockets, especially in the playoffs, and they've been kind of struggling a little bit. But yeah, I think, you have a pick and roll heavy guy, and his outlet is Austin Reeves and LeBron. It makes it hard to guard. But yeah, these guys have been on fire lately. What are the chances that we think that Luka gets MVP this season? What are the chances? Because he's crept up to, let me see. I think he's third now. I'm trying to find transaction. No. Oh, here it is. No, he's second now. He's now second. Shea is still first at 31.5 and 4 points, 4.5 rebounds, 6.6 assists. Luka's averaging 33.4 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 8.4 assists. Wemby is now third at 24.2 points per game, 11.1 rebounds, and 3 blocks. And Jokic is at fourth at 28.2 points per game, 12.6 rebounds, and 10.5 assists. Cade has also dropped to 5. He is, he went down with an injury. He's most likely not going to be eligible for, for the MVP. And then after Cade, it's Jaylen Brown, Jalen Johnson, Donovan Mitchell, and Anthony Edwards. And then Kawhi Leonard rounds out the top 10. But Shea is the front runner. I fully admit that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is the front runner. And I think this MVP, and I talked about it in my video from earlier this week. I think this MVP has some all-time implications, right? For Shea, two regular season MVPs. If he can capture another title, it really starts to separate him from certain players, and it starts putting him in at the table with others when it comes to these all-time conversations. And then you add the fact that he's been averaging over 30 on over 50% shooting for like the last 3 or 4 years. Even without the scoring title in all of those seasons, that's really impressive. Speaking of MVP, I wanted to ask you something. Go ahead. For Luka, this is an award that I think a lot of people feel like he should have had already. 2 years ago when Jokic won it, even I thought Luka or Shea should have got that award. Luka was also averaging like 33 that year. So him and Wemby also, this could be the start of something new for the league versus someone that could be solidifying himself in all-time conversations. It's a very interesting MVP race. It seems Shea is the people's favorite for my MVP over Jokic, but I don't see why he has moved beyond Jokic in people's eyes so certainly. What do you mean by that? In terms of MVP? Or are you talking about the best player in the world conversation? Because I think those are two different conversations. For MVP, recency bias is a real thing. But in this case, what we've seen recently out of Jokic is he was out for a little bit of time. He missed some time. He missed like 2 or 3 weeks with an injury. And there was the questions of whether he would even make the 65 game minimum. But also in that stretch when he was out, they were like 10-3. They were playing really, really good basketball. And then, obviously anytime that happens, ESPN is always like, are they better without their star and blah, 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 blah. And then he comes back and they're not playing well. So that has a lot to do with the MVP rankings. Earlier on in this season, I think, at the beginning of the season, I think Shea had an early lead, especially with how hot OKC was. But then, Jokic had a stretch. And I think ever since then, Shea has kind of taken over the MVP because he's just been so consistent. My whole life is consistent. So the team hasn't really dropped off. It just is what it is. Jay, did you just talk about Cade already? No, not yet. I mean, we've touched on it a little bit, but I haven't talked about that yet. I did want to finish this part off. Looking at these numbers, right? Shea's at 31.5. Luka's 33.4. What is Jaylen Brown's at 28.5. Tyrese Maxey's at 29. Anthony Edwards is at 29.5. What I'm getting at here is, when we say that people average 30, I think there's times where people throw that around a little loosely, right? Jaylen Brown, and I think Jaylen Brown is fantastic. He's having an unbelievable season, right? He's really impressed me. But we've seen the drop off from the 30 points per game he was averaging at one point in this season to 28.5. It's really hard to score 30 a game, right? It's really, really hard to score 30 a game. Even Tyrese Maxey, the heater he was on earlier in the season, averaging over 30, he's at 29. excuse me, that, crossing that 30 point per game mark and maintaining it is a really, really difficult thing to do. And I think some people kind of just gloss over the fact that Luka can average 33 a game, and the fact that I think currently speaking in all-time points per game averages, he's like second or third. It's really impressive, the 33.4 a game. But yeah, we can move on to Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. He's out for an extended period of time, right? A collapsed lung, I believe. My favorite to come out of the East now, I'm rooting for my New York Knicks. I think everyone's been saying that the Eastern Conference is wide open. I think there are some sleeper teams here, right? James Harden going to Cleveland, I think, helps them a lot. Toronto plays good basketball. Atlanta's been on fire lately. But I think it's really a two-team race out of the East, and that's the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. And I gotta admit, man, I don't like seeing Jayson Tatum back. Listen, the video that I put out 2 weeks ago, I explained why it would not be difficult to put Jayson Tatum back into the offense. And it hasn't been difficult. And sometimes I hate it when I'm right, because Jaylen Brown has been an unbelievable player and maybe an even better leader this year. They've got some really, really great pieces on that team. They have two guys that are rocks for them in Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. They have role players for days, it feels like. And, you get Jayson Tatum, who's an all-NBA level player, right? A perennial all-NBA player. And you are able to bring him in at the second option. If they are fully aligned, they meaning Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, on what this is, they're a really dangerous team. They're a really, really dangerous team. For my Knicks, when we've looked good, we've looked really good. So I'm kind of just banking on that. But I think it's going to be a Celtics-Knicks. It's going to be one of those two teams. It's going to be one of those two teams, in my opinion. And I got the Knicks game right now, too. I got it back here. Let's see. What else we got? Let's see if there's anything. Let's see if there's anything from Shams. I can't believe, man. Cade. To me, what's hard about the Cade Cunningham situation is, if you're talking just the most important player on their team, it's probably Cade Cunningham. The Thunder have an identity, right? And I'm not saying that they would be great without Shea, because I think that's difficult, especially for a long stretch. But they have an identity. They're gonna lean on their defense. They have guys that can score, and they'll try to figure that out. Luka has Austin Reeves, and even though LeBron is 40 whatever, excuse me, that's still LeBron James. Wemby has a ton of talent around him. They're young and inexperienced, but it's a lot of talent. And you have someone there, as the second guy in command, and De'Aaron Fox, who has experience and is very clutch. Jokic, you got some proven veterans behind him. When you look around, Jaylen Brown, you got some proven guys. I get they might not be the most talented on paper, but you got some vets in there. And the core of the team is the same. you know, outside of pretty much all of these legitimate contenders, Cade Cunningham probably has the least experience around him, and probably one of the least talented, just point blank. I think Jalen Duren is great, but he's doing a lot with a little. And so, you know, pure MVP alone, Cade would probably be, he'd probably be the guy for me. But you know, it's unfortunate, and they need to go get him some help, or he needs to go to a different team, because he's in a situation now where if he doesn't play well, they have a really hard time winning games. And that's a really tough situation to be in. And he's done a great job with it. But that's tough. 24.5 points, 9.9 rebounds, 5.6 assists. And I think his defense is also very underrated. No one talks about his defense. I think he's a very good defender. But yeah, sad to see him go down. Sad to see him go down. You know, speaking of the Spurs, actually, let's take a look at this, because he had a these. All right. We're gonna take a look at this, because this is, I think, exactly what Wemby needs. Let's see right here. Should I move my cam? Let me move my cam. Let me move it to the other side for this. I think if Wemby can play more from this area, absolutely dominant. Absolutely dominant. Because one dribble in, he's 2 steps away from the rim and getting a dunk. The step back gets him to the 3-point line. So I think this is a really dangerous area. You know, I think this whole line, if you could draw a whole line over here, free throw line extended, I think is where you would want Wemby to be able to live, because it gives him space. You know, if you're a defender in this situation, you want to get physical with him, but it's hard, right? Because now if you step up and you're physical with him and he's able to get around you, now he's right at the rim.
With 7 against Iguodala. Victor checks the clock.
I love this, man. I love this right here. You know where the help's coming from. You know where the help is coming from right here.
Against Iguodala. Victor checks the clock.
Fuck the Aaron Fox, right? Fuck the Aaron Fox.
Dribbles, fades, and sends this.
That's what he's got to do, man. This right here is exactly what he needs to be able to do.
Victor checks the clock. Dribbles, fades, and sends the Spurs to the pass with 1.1 second remaining.
No crazy fouls here. Make the Suns take a desperation shot without fouling.
Booker at midcourt for the game, and no! It's a fiesta once again. The winner.
And this is what MVPs do. Clock is running down. Nice and calm, races right over the top of Iguodala.
You know, the only difference, and maybe it's different because he's so tall, right? Let's play this back in slow motion. Little film breakdown. Little film breakdown right here. But look at where the ball is coming from, right? You know, if you go back and watch Michael Jordan videos, when he's doing the pull-up, he wants the ball to already be up here. Ball's all the way down here. and it has to travel all the way up there to get to his shot point. Versus if he's able to already have it up, you know, it makes that shot very difficult to guard. But that is exactly, in my opinion, what Wemby needs. He needs the one dribble pull up. You know, I'm not one of those people that think he needs to stop shooting jump shots altogether. I think he could just pick his spots a little bit better. So you put guys in a situation, if I pump fake and you jump, I get to go to the rim. If you're being physical, I could step back or I could spin and get to the cup. Like, you know, the reason I don't want him to be constantly at the 3-point line is he's a lot less of a threat consistently versus, you know, free throw line extended. But yeah, man, he's a treat to watch play the game of basketball, man. That guy is really good. I think it's really scary when you think about the possibilities, right? Wemby is a perennial defensive player of the year candidate. You know, as long as he's healthy, he will be a defensive player of the year candidate year in and year out. And I'll be honest with you, guards have a really difficult time getting that award. Dyson Daniel was getting a bunch of steals last season and didn't win it. So if you're a guard, it's hard to win this award because defensive rebounds are a part of it, right? And bigs have a higher chance of getting this award because they get defensive rebounds and they can get blocks. And he gets blocks at a very high level. And, you know, when you watch the game, you literally see players not driving the basketball because he's there. It's very clear as day. It's a little bit harder to see it with the guards, right? I think there are some players that teams try to stay away from defensively because of their ability to get steals and knock the ball loose. But it's a lot harder to see. So moving forward, it's hard to imagine someone really challenging him for the defensive player of the year. And if he keeps getting better offensively, which I think he will, we have the defense, and then you have someone that could potentially average nearly 30 or 30 plus points per game. That's a perennial MVP and defensive player of the year candidate. The idea of that is really scary, right? It's just like, imagine we look 10 years from now and this guy has won 4 defensive player of the years, 4 MVPs, and all of them were in the same season. People will be mind fucking blown. Everyone will be mind blown. So that's the possibility. He's 22 years old, y'all. Like, he's 22 years old. It's scary how good he could be. It's scary. Like, we're seeing, you know, Shea's kind of hitting his peak at like 27. Anthony Edwards is, I think, 24, and he's slowly getting there. Tatum and Brown, we saw them really figure the game out, 26, 27, 28. Wemby's 22. And he's already in conversations for these awards. Imagine when he's 24, 25, when people are expecting him to win it. It's not just a conversation. They're expecting him and his team to win. It really is a scary thought for the rest of the NBA. I'm not gonna lie to you. And if you're a player that's going for those, like, what do you even do? Right? What do you even do? Like, you got to go average a fucking triple-double and your team got to be first. Like, that seems like the only logical way that you would even challenge this guy for MVPs and whatnot. And, you know, just kind of praying maybe Cooper Flagg really becomes a dominant defensive player. Like one of these guys to really challenge him, because if he has the defensive player of the year locked down, basically, and he can average 28 to 30 a game, to me, that sounds like the MVP. There are very few times that the defensive player of the year is also getting 30 points a game, and that's a very scary thought, I think, for the league. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. 22 is crazy, y'all. Let's see over here. Let's see. What else do we got? What games we got right now? My Knicks are playing Warriors, Pistons, Atlanta, Houston, Boston, Memphis, Portland, Minnesota, and then the Raptors and the Nuggets are playing later. I wanted to say also, and I've gassed him before, but this guy Jalen Johnson is the fucking truth, man. I can't even lie. This guy is nice. Yeah, Atlanta, I could see why they were so willing to get rid of Trae Young. I know I said, see how they could work together and whatnot, but if your organization is saying choose one, that seems like a pretty obvious choice. Which player you would choose? That guy is unreal. So I'd love to see what happens to them moving forward. Let's see. Oh, here's standings. Do we think the Warriors get in the playoffs this year? Because I don't think they get in the playoffs this year. Another wasted year for Steph Curry. The Suns, I don't know. If there's a playing game, I feel like I'm gonna pick Kawhi. By the way, insane Kawhi Leonard's numbers. When he's playing and he's on, that guy's been unreal. We saw in the All-Star game. He was on a heater in one of those games at like 36 or something, in a quarter, basically. Yeah, if there's a game like the Clippers, the Suns versus either the Warriors or the Blazers, I think I'm taking the Clippers in that one purely off of Kawhi Leonard. Now, once they get past them and they run into either the Spurs or the Thunder, they're getting mopped. But in that play, I'm taking those guys. Let's see, I can't believe the Hornets are in the playing game with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is scary, man. I wouldn't want to face these guys. They just have so much talent. It's just so much talent on that team. They might not play the best brand of basketball. They might not be the best team, but that's a lot of talent that you're going to have to go against. And, basketball is one of those sports where one guy really can be dominant. It's funny, Bam had that unbelievable game, but we'll see if they even make the playoffs. I don't want to say I've lost faith for Paolo Banchero. I still believe in my guy. I think he's a good player. But we'll see what happens, man. Let me see. Is there any other topics that we want to go over today? Let me hit a refresh on Sham's Twitter. But yeah, I don't think we really got much to talk about. Left in here. Let me see. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is I will be back next Friday as usual. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate it so much. If you have not done so already, please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't done that. It really helps the channel out. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you, RC. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Derpy. Thank you, everybody, for popping in and watching. Y'all could have been anywhere on the internet, but y'all were here with me, and I appreciate you for that. So thank you so much. I will see y'all later. Y'all have a great rest of y'all night. Y'all have a great weekend. I'll see you guys, man. Thank you for watching. Peace.